Mekonnen, who will be speaking on the challenges of litigating internet shutdowns in domestic courts. He has, I have introduced him during my introduction.
Yeah.
We know with Ameha very well. He directs Lawyers for Human Rights. He does a very serious work of human rights advocacy in Ethiopia, one of the most respected persons, I would say. So it's a pleasure, Ameha, to have you here. And you will share, I'll give you the floor to present on the
Yeah.
challenges litigating internet shutdowns in domestic courts in Ethiopia, in domestic courts.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Masambat. Thank you, Brian and Moji Rayo as well. It's really difficult to speak after such eloquent presentations. But anyway, thank you for the introduction, but at the same time, I have to confess that I'm not as such expert on digital rights. In fact, I have been involved in some activities relating to digital rights. As you remember, Dr. Masambat, apart from our role in Lawyers for Human Rights in advancing freedom of expression generally and planning to do some intervention in relation to strategic in relation to internet shutdown. Couple of years before, we have been trying to establish a network of digital rights for Ethiopia. Masambat, yourself, and the vice, I think Dr. Dawit is also part of the initiative, and we have done some important works in that network. But unfortunately, the more the internet shutdowns have become almost a routine business in this country, the less we're defending free and affordable internet in this country. It's only recently some civil society organizations and some actors are coming to the platform to defend free and affordable internet in this country. So this is another good opportunity probably for us here in Ethiopia to reinitiate all the efforts that we have been exerting to defend free and affordable internet in this country. So I will be actually presenting as mentioned by Dr. Masambat on the challenges that we might potentially face when we litigate internet shutdown. In that regard, I will be speaking on two categories of challenges. The first one will be challenges unique to litigating internet shutdown. The other set of challenges will be, general challenges litigating human rights in domestic courts. As you have heard in the introduction, and as probably many of the participants to this webinar know very well, LHR has been doing a lot in advancing or introducing the very idea of strategic human rights litigation in our legal system. In that regard, we have done a lot in terms of capacity building to the members of the legal profession and the civil society leaders and the members of the judiciary themselves. We have already developed some guidelines that helps anyone interested to participate in or contribute for strategic litigation or strategic human rights litigation. We have also developed a database that contains important data with regard to the actual exercise of strategic litigation, human rights litigation, both the guideline and the database are available, integrated to our website. Our LHR Ethiopia.org is the address of our website, so you can find both the guideline and the database there. We have also initiated some test cases. Much of the test cases related to some civilian and political rights and some socio-economic rights. We haven't yet initiated a case, a strategic litigation case, which has to do with freedom of expression in general and internet shutdown. So some of the challenges that I will mention are those challenges that we have already faced while litigating general human rights issues. But before I step into, again, describing or discussing the specific types of the challenges, I think I strongly believe it's always important to emphasize on the value of free, uninterrupted, and affordable internet for the life of each and everyone, and the duties of the government in relation to making such kind of platforms available. As you all know, after the advent of human rights in general, as in the forms that we know, we understand it today, there has been a lot of technological advancement in the world, each contributing a lot for the full enjoyment of rights that have been agreed from the time the conception of human rights has been introduced as we know it today. But the emergence of internet and its exponential growth in access to the internet and other information and communication technologies, digital rights have become indispensable, the way in which people around the world exercise and enjoy their fundamental rights. As my juros, sorry again if I'm not pronouncing your name, Mojahiro has been saying, this has now...
Moji would be enough to say, just for short.
What is that?
Moji is enough to say. Yes.
Moji, okay. As Moji rightly pointed out, this, the indispensable nature of internet has now firmly entrenched in many of the global platforms for human rights, including the African Commission on People's Rights, the United Nations, as the same rights that people have offline must also be protected online, in particular, the right to freedom of expression. I think this has to be seriously taken into account while we talk about international digital rights broadly and internet shutdown, apart from its relevance to the democratic values. I mean, it is very also important for the full enjoyment of other rights. So there is almost a consensus these days. Digital rights are human rights. Probably one question that we have to again discuss more is whether actually internet itself is a right. So far I know, no right to the internet has yet been expressly recognized in international treaty or similar instruments. There are also the debates for and against, but beyond the debate, there is a general consensus on the fact that access to the internet is indispensable to the enjoyment of the various fundamental rights. So the consequences, anyway, those with access to the internet are deprived of the full enjoyment of the rights, which in many instances can aggravate the already existing socioeconomic inequalities. So it is a reality these days. Those who have access to the internet are always privileged in terms of enjoying their full rights and have go through personal economic development, and those who have deprived of those access are getting poorer and will get poorer and poorer. So this reality has to be also considered while talking about availability of free and affordable internet and internet shutdown. So what are the obligations of states in relation to making avail a free and affordable internet? It is clear that wherever there is a recipient of rights, there is a corresponding body, primarily the state, whose duty is to ensure the existence of conditions under which the government, the states have always duties to ensure the existence of conditions under which rights can be claimed and enjoined. In this regard, we have some gaps in our legal system. That was what I think Brian was also trying to figure out. I think the responses from the pool he put has already made clear that we don't have conducive legal environment to claim, especially the digital rights. Once a state has ratified a certain international human rights instrument, it usually assumes some kind of obligation, as we know, first to restrain enacting national legislation that contravene the international standards of the rights as enshrined in the instruments. In most cases, state parties are generally, they are not required to only to restrain, but they are also expected to adopt or modify domestic legislations and policies to allow the full enjoyment of rights that they have agreed for. Equally important is that most national constitutions contain sections to acknowledge the Bill of Rights, as the case is, as is the same with Ethiopian constitution, and the national laws impose duties on the government and all its agencies to restrain from violating and to take positive actions towards their full enjoyment. Apart from this general obligation of state parties, like all other human rights, in relation to especially freedom of expression, the Convention on Civil and Political Rights impose, as we know, 3 different type of obligations, and the nature of these obligations of states negative, the nature of states negative and positive, this is often distinguished respectively as we know, again, obligation to respect, protect, and fulfill. The obligation to respect, which is negative duty, as it is true in relation to other rights as well, is generally a negative duty to ensure that governments refrain from acting in a way that impedes any attempts to exercise the right to freedom of expression. So imposing, or this imposes a duty to, upon the state not to violate the right to freedom of expression by its action. So the government or states are expected to refrain from imposing internet shutdowns and slowdowns or any other act of disruption to a free communication, total or partial dispersion. So internet shutdown or slowdown is a clear act of violating a right or failing for a state to respect its duty to respect. Obligation to protect is duty upon the state. I'm talking about these very basic things in view of especially arming participants who may have come to this platform for the first time. Otherwise, I know these are very basic for lawyers and human rights professionals, but that's what I was trying to make at the initial moment of my presentation. It's always important to remind the value of free and affordable and uninterrupted internet and the obligation of the states in the regard. So the government obligation is not limited to respect, but its obligation is also extended to protect, impose a duty upon the state not to violate rights by its inactions. Under this obligation, state parties are required to put in place effective measures to protect against attacks aimed at silencing those exercising their right. This is very important, especially in an environment where there are different actors, both locally and beyond, that might encroach upon this particular right, even remotely. The other obligation, positive obligation, is the government obligation. The government is duty-bound to act in order to ensure that this right can be enjoyed, and especially the government is duty-bound to invest what is necessary to ensure that the right infrastructures are in place so as to allow citizens have access to the internet. This, in other words, would also mean the state would implement this obligation by adopting appropriate legislative, administrative, budgetary, judicial, promotional, and other measures to facilitate the full realization. So having said this as a background, why we need, or why strategic litigation to challenge acts of internet shutdown? Under international human rights law, each state has obligation to respect, as we have already said, protect and fulfill their. However, with the growth in access to the internet and other ICTs, there has also, as you all know, there has also been an increase in the states and other actors seeking to infringe on these rights. For instance, through international network, through international network disruptions, the promulgation of cyber crimes and other respective repressive laws and expansive digital surveillance operations without proper oversight and regulation. I enjoyed very much the reflection by Brian and Moji on the relevance of regulation while accepting the possibility of internet shutdown and the sensitivity of the concept of regulation in a democratic society. I really, it's a bit difficult for me to take position on either side. Both have, for me, both have valid pointers. But anyway, we have to continue defending a free and affordable internet service. So strategic litigation might be or is it's definitely one of the viable means to defend free and affordable internet service, taking note of the increasing trend in states and other actors seeking to infringe on this right. It has therefore been necessary for affected parties to turn into, again, Brian was asking for alternative measures than litigation. There might be alternative measures, and obviously there are alternative measures to defend uninterrupted and free internet. But at some point, people should have also, affected parties should have also recourse to court to seek different remedies. Generally, strategic litigation is a very important tool for civil societies with an overarching objective of bringing about far-reaching systematic and structural change, including in the area of human rights. Thus, if CSOs can successfully change the legal and institutional framework through strategic litigation, this will have the effect of transforming the way the whole system and the practice connected to access to the internet and digital rights operates. Strategic litigation outcomes might also lead to changes in legislation and government policy and raise public awareness, as well as foster support for compliance by the government. It can also lead to significant legal precedences by highlighting human rights violations and raising awareness and bringing about reforms in legislation, policy, and practice. Thus, given the repeated practice of the Ethiopian government in limiting access to the internet and exercise of a host of human rights over the internet, litigating human rights impacted by this unjustified practice of limitation would be one viable strategy. What platform to approach to litigate internet shutdowns? Recourse can be sought both at the national and sub-regional level.
You have 4 minutes,
Pardon me?
You have 4 minutes.
Okay. From practical perspective, it is also often easier to enforce the decision of domestic courts because domestic legal systems have developed mechanisms of enforcement that are absent from international forum. Otherwise, we have quasi-judicial bodies to approach, and there are special procedures. So let me just pass on to the main points of the main part of my presentation. What are the challenges unique to litigating internet shutdowns? Absence or lack of awareness on freedom of expression and the exercise of other human rights, namely freedom of information, freedom of association and assembly, the right to health, education, and work over the internet. The fact that the awareness that all rights offline are also fundamental rights online, as that by itself will have an impact in exercising strategic litigation. The other challenge might be the difficulty in assessing and determining whether these fundamental rights of citizens are actually violated due to the restriction. I mean, theoretically, it is easy to understand theoretically that internet shutdown will affect the enjoyment of other rights, but it's always be be a challenge to determine actually rights are violated. Challenges to document the exact circumstances surrounding the internet shutdown by itself is also another challenge. And despite what Mojiro was saying, internet shutdowns are inherently disproportionate. Many literatures will agree on that. But while planning for litigation or while going for litigation, it's always important to be able to assess each and every case of internet shutdowns and answer fundamental questions that would determine the fate of the litigation. And this requires a high technical capacity, and that might also be another challenge. The other challenges, I think I would be happy to hear from Brian and Moyu from experience. In our case, internet shutdown is usually a covert action. It is not very much clear which authority has the mandate to order internet shutdown and which authority has the technical capacity to do the act of the internet shutdown. So these are some major challenges unique to internet shutdown, and limited expertise among substantial members of the judiciary and the legal community in defending digital rights broadly is also another challenge. Probably some of the general challenges that also shadow on the exercise of strategic litigation in relation to internet shutdown is the public perception of holding the government accountable. It might be the case in many traditional societies, but in our case, the saying, you cannot hold the government accountable as much as you cannot plow the sky is almost a controlling perception in our society. And even this perception has some legal backing into our legal frameworks. Otherwise, the limited capacity in terms of applying regional and international human rights instruments have been hindering our limited exercise in advancing strategic litigation, and this might also continue as one of the challenge. And there is also unsettled dispute on the interpretation and domestication of international instruments. This again might continue as another impediment in attempting to litigate the internet shutdowns. Absence of clear procedural rules for broader local standing for public interest reason might also continue as another challenge. And the absence of internet shutdown is not all about a legal matter, but it also involves a lot of technical issues. So while planning or thinking, litigating the internet shutdowns, this definitely requires for the judiciary to invite for amicus, but unfortunately our legal framework is not complete in this regard. So this and many other common challenges for strategic human rights litigation might also continue as impediments to successful litigation to defend free and uninterrupted and affordable internet. That's all I have, Asambet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ato Ameha, for that very elaborate, I think, presentation on the challenges of strategic litigation, in particular on